My girlfriend mocked me, saying I should fight her male friends for her attention, so I stopped paying her rent. And her world collapsed. I, 25 male, need to get this off my chest because, honestly, I can't even sleep properly anymore thinking about all this stuff. I met my girlfriend, 24 female, about 4 years ago during this random workshop I took for extra credit in college. It was some marketing analytics thing, totally boring, but I needed the credits to graduate. I was sitting near the back, trying not to fall asleep during the professor's presentation, when this girl sits next to me and whispers, "This is painful, right?" We ended up passing notes back and forth, making fun of how the professor kept saying synergy every 2 minutes. After class, she actually asked me for coffee, which never happens to me, to be honest. I'm not ugly or anything, but I'm a pretty average looking dude, 5'10", regular build, nothing special. The coffee date was actually pretty great. She was really easy to talk to, laughed at my dumb jokes, and we had a lot in common. We're both into gaming, we both play League, even though I'm trash at it. We like the same type of music, and we both hate those pretentious coffee shops where they judge you for wanting regular coffee instead of some fancy pour-over thing. We started dating pretty much right after that. Nothing crazy or dramatic happened, just regular dating stuff. We'd go to movies, grab food at this Mexican place near campus that had the best burritos, R.I.P. Jose's Cantina, they closed last year, and spend way too much time binge-watching shows together. She got me into anime, actually, Attack on Titan was our first show together. What made our relationship different from my previous ones was how drama-free it was. We barely fought about anything. Sure, we had small arguments about stupid stuff, like what to watch on Netflix or whose turn it was to pick up food, but nothing major, no breakups, no breaks, no jealousy stuff. It was just nice. After graduation, things were looking pretty good for both of us. I landed an entry-level job at a tech company doing back-end development, nothing fancy, mostly fixing bugs and maintaining old code. She got a job at a marketing firm. The pay was decent, not amazing, but enough to live comfortably. We both had our own apartments because we agreed it was too early to move in together. I remember my friends being kind of suspicious about how smooth everything was going. My buddy Mike kept saying stuff like, "Dude, there's no way you guys never fight, and relationships aren't supposed to be this easy." But honestly, it really was that simple. We just got along really well. We had our routines. Wednesday was date night because restaurants are less crowded. Weekends, we'd usually hang out with our friend groups, but sometimes together, and we texted throughout the day, sharing memes and complaining about work. Normal couple stuff, you know? I guess I should mention her family situation because it becomes relevant later. Her parents split up when she was in high school, and she's not super close with either of them. They help her out sometimes, but she's pretty independent. My family loves her, though. My mom's always inviting her over for Sunday dinner, and my little sister thinks she's the coolest person ever. Looking back now, maybe things were too perfect. Maybe we never had any real tests of our relationship, so we didn't know how we'd handle actual problems. I don't know, man, hindsight's weird like that. The first 2 years were honestly great. We went on a couple trips together, nothing fancy, just weekend trips to nearby cities, celebrated birthdays and anniversaries, supported each other through job stress and family drama. I helped her deal with her dad getting remarried to someone only 10 years older than her, and she helped me when I was thinking about switching jobs. I guess what I'm trying to say is that everything was normal, boring normal, but in a good way. We were just two people who really liked each other and enjoyed being together. No crazy passion or intense drama, just comfortable happiness. About 2 years into our relationship, my girlfriend starts acting all weird and quiet. She'd space out during our Netflix sessions and keep browsing her phone during dinner. At first, I thought maybe she was talking to someone else. Yeah, I know I'm insecure sometimes, but nah, it wasn't that. One night, we're sitting on her couch eating takeout, and she just goes, "I hate my job now." She'd complained about work before, who doesn't? But this was different. She started crying and saying how she feels like she's wasting her life making PowerPoint presentations for clients who don't even read them. Turns out she'd been watching all these YouTube videos about being your own boss and following your passion. Yeah, I know how that sounds now. She had this whole plan about starting her own media company. The way she explained it, she wanted to help small businesses with their social media and content creation, but do it in a more authentic way than big agencies. I remember she had this Google Doc with 50 pages of plans and ideas she'd been working on during lunch breaks and late at night. There were spreadsheets with projected earnings, lists of potential clients, even mock-ups of her company logo. She really put in the work, I'll give her that. Her job at the marketing firm was paying pretty well, like $65,000 a year, which isn't bad for someone 2 years out of college. But she kept talking about how money isn't everything and how she needs to make an impact or whatever. Like I said, she'd been watching a lot of those entrepreneur YouTube channels. Here's where I probably messed up. Instead of being realistic and telling her to maybe start it as a side gig first, I went full supportive boyfriend mode. I was like, yeah, babe, follow your dreams and don't let fear hold you back. Reddit, I was saying all that motivational poster type stuff because I wanted to be supportive, you know? She had some savings, about $20,000 from working and living pretty cheap. Her apartment was tiny as fuck, and she drove a beat-up Honda Civic. Plus, she had this plan to get some small business grants and maybe even investors. It didn't sound completely crazy at the time. The way she laid it out was, use her savings for the first 6 months, by then, have enough clients to cover basic expenses, and within a year, be making more than her old job. She even had this whole presentation about how the pandemic made more businesses realize they need social media presence. Again, it sounded legit when she explained it. Her parents weren't happy when she told them. Her dad especially was like, "You're throwing away a good career for a pipe dream." But I defended her. I was that guy saying stuff like, times are different now, and traditional jobs aren't the only path anymore. God, I sound so naive typing this out. She quit her job about a month after telling me her plan. At first, she was super excited, working like 12 hours a day setting up her website, making business cards, and reaching out to potential clients on LinkedIn. She even got her first client, some local bakery that needed help with their Instagram. The apartment situation seemed smart at first. Instead of wasting money on office space, she turned her living room into this home office setup, got a nice desk from IKEA, one of those ring lights for video calls, even put up a fancy-looking backdrop for Zoom meetings. The whole girl boss aesthetic, you know? I started noticing some red flags but ignored them because she seemed so happy. Like, how she'd spend hours making TikToks about entrepreneurship tips when she barely had any clients, or how she kept buying new equipment, cameras, microphones, editing software, before actually needing them. But the biggest thing I overlooked was when she started talking about hiring her friends. These were people from college who worked in similar fields: graphic design, video editing, content writing. She said having a team would make her company look more professional. What I didn't realize was that she couldn't actually afford to pay them properly. So, this is where stuff really started getting messy. Around 8 months after my girlfriend started her company, I noticed she wasn't posting as many hustle life stories on Instagram anymore. She used to put up these daily motivation posts and behind-the-scenes stuff of her growing empire. Yeah, I'm cringing typing that now. The bakery client was still with her and actually doing pretty good. Their Instagram followers went from like 500 to 15,000, and they were getting actual customers from social media. But the problem was that was pretty much her only steady client. She had a few one-off projects here and there, but nothing stable. Remember those friends she hired? Well, turns out she was paying them by promising them shares in the company instead of actual money. She kept saying stuff like, "When we make it big, you'll be glad you got in early." Reddit, I know how stupid this sounds now, but at the time, I just thought it was normal startup stuff. The first sign that things were really bad was when I went to her place one evening and saw a bunch of past due notices on her kitchen counter. She tried to hide them quick, but I saw them. We're talking electricity, internet, and like 2 months of rent. She played it off like, "Oh, these just came in. I'll handle it when this big client pays me next week." That big client she was talking about? It was some local gym that wanted social media management. They had agreed on a price and everything, but then they ghosted her after she did the first month of work, didn't pay a cent. She was too embarrassed to chase them legally because the contract she used was something she found on Google. I started noticing other stuff too, like how she was always buying the cheapest food possible, literally just rice and eggs some weeks, or how her car was running on empty because she couldn't afford gas. But she still kept buying stuff for her business image. New blazers for client meetings, premium Canva subscription, all that stuff. Then one night around 11 p.m., she calls me crying, like proper ugly crying where I could barely understand what she was saying. Turns out her landlord had come by and told her she had to pay all the back rent, 3 months worth, or he'd start eviction proceedings. She finally showed me her actual financial situation. Her $20,000 savings gone, credit cards maxed out. We're talking about $15,000 in credit card debt. The few clients she had were paying late or not at all, and those business grants she was counting on? She got rejected from all of them because her business plan wasn't viable enough. The worst part was seeing all the equipment just sitting there unused. 2 MacBooks, one for editing, one for client work, 3 different cameras, lighting equipment, a podcast mic setup, probably like $10,000 worth of stuff just collecting dust. She tried selling some of it, but nobody wants to pay much for used equipment. That's when she asked me for help with the rent. She was so embarrassed she could barely get the words out. She kept saying it would just be for a few months until some potential clients came through. She even showed me emails from companies that seemed interested. I did what any idiot in love would do, told her not to worry about money and that I'd cover her rent until things picked up. Her rent was $1,400 a month, which was a lot, but I was making decent money, around $85,000, and living pretty cheap myself. We talked about her moving in with me to save money, but her whole business setup was at her place, all the equipment, the home office backdrop, everything. Plus, she said it would look unprofessional to suddenly change her business address. Looking back, we should have just done it anyway. The thing that really gets me now is how she never considered getting a part-time job or going back to regular work. Every time I gently suggested it, she'd get defensive and say stuff like, "You don't believe in me," or "I've come too far to give up now," even though too far meant being in debt and depending on her boyfriend to keep a roof over her head. But you know what the really stupid part is? I was actually proud of her for not giving up. I thought she was being brave and persistent instead of seeing that she was just being stubborn and prideful. I even bragged to my friends about how dedicated she was to her dreams. So, after I started paying her rent, things kind of settled into this weird routine. The first few months weren't that bad, to be honest. She seemed more relaxed without the landlord breathing down her neck, and I convinced myself this was just temporary. Quick money breakdown because people will be asking in the comments. My take-home after taxes was around $5,000 a month. My own rent was $1,100, car payment $300, other bills maybe $500. So paying her $1,400 rent wasn't killing me, but it definitely meant no more saving money or buying anything extra. She actually did get a few more clients during this time. Some local furniture store wanted weekly Instagram posts, and a small tech startup needed help with their LinkedIn presence. The money wasn't great, maybe $2,000 to $2,500 a month total, but she used it all for business expenses, instead of maybe paying her own rent. Her apartment became this weird mix of home and office. The living room had this professional setup with the backdrop and lighting, but then there'd be instant ramen packets hidden behind the camera. Her bedroom was full of Amazon boxes from all the random business stuff she kept ordering. Essential equipment, she called it. This is when her friends started coming over more to work. There were three main ones: Jake, videographer guy always wearing those hipster beanies; Mike, supposed to be the graphic design expert but spent most time playing games on his laptop; Sarah, content writer who mostly just scrolled through TikTok for inspiration. They'd show up around 10 a.m. because creative people don't do early mornings or whatever, and just hang out. Yeah, they do some work, but it was mostly them ordering DoorDash and talking about how they're disrupting the industry, with my rent money. Cool. At first, I'd stop by during lunch break. Sometimes it was weird because they'd all be sitting around my girlfriend's apartment, that I was paying for, eating takeout that probably cost more than what they were earning, and acting like they were running some Silicon Valley startup. The dynamic was strange from the start. My girlfriend was technically their boss, but they acted more like a group of friends hanging out, which I guess they were. But shouldn't there be some professional boundaries when you're trying to run a business? I started noticing little things that bugged me, like how they'd all go to the gym together during lunch breaks that lasted 2 to 3 hours, or how client work would be late because they spent the day brainstorming, which looked a lot like watching YouTube and gossiping. My girlfriend kept saying they were building company culture. Reddit, I wish I was making this up. She had all these phrases she'd picked up from business podcasts and kept using them wrong, like calling their group chat their digital workspace ecosystem. The money situation didn't get better, but it became normal, Every month I'd transfer the rent money to her account. She'd promise this was the last month she'd need help. Rinse and repeat. I stopped asking about her business finances because I didn't want to fight. My friends tried to warn me. My buddy Chris straight up told me I was being used, but I kept defending her, saying stuff like, she's investing in her future, and sometimes you have to support your partner's dreams. I was that guy, the one everyone feels sorry for, but he doesn't see it. The worst part? I actually believed we were building something together. I thought once her business took off, we'd look back at this time and laugh about how we struggled. Remember when you had to pay my rent? Would be our cute story at dinner parties or whatever. I even started turning down stuff I wanted to do because of the money, canceled my gym membership, stopped going out with friends, kept wearing my old clothes even though they were getting pretty worn out. Meanwhile, she's buying new business casual outfits for client meetings that rarely happened. Alright, this is where stuff really started getting bad, like the kind of bad where you know something's wrong, but you keep telling yourself you're just being paranoid. It started with the gym thing. My girlfriend used to go maybe twice a week, normal stuff. Then suddenly she's going every single day, sometimes twice a day. And yeah, being healthy is good or whatever, but this was different. She'd skip our phone calls because she was at the gym, missing date nights because of workout sessions with the team. Quick note, when I say the team, I mean Jake and Mike, those two guys who worked for her. Sarah stopped coming around as much because she got an actual job. Smart girl, to be honest. But these two dudes? They were always there. Always. The texting started getting weird too. We used to text all day, stupid memes, random thoughts, complaining about stuff, normal couple things. But then it turned into, me, hey, wanna grab dinner tonight? Her, reads message, 3 hours later, sorry, was busy with work stuff. Meanwhile, she's posting Instagram stories of her and the team doing workout challenges or whatever. Cool. Really looked like work stuff. The worst part, we went from seeing each other almost every day to maybe once a week. And when we did meet up, she was always checking her phone or talking about what Jake said about this or what Mike thought about that. It's like I wasn't even there. I tried talking to her about it. I was super careful about how I brought it up because I didn't want to sound controlling. Conversation went something like this. Me, hey, I feel like we haven't been spending much time together lately. Her, I'm trying to build a business here. You said you supported me. Me, I do, but, her, then why are you making me feel guilty about working hard? That was pretty much how every conversation went. She'd turn it around so somehow I was the bad guy for wanting to actually see my girlfriend. Real fun stuff. Then there was this weird competition thing that started happening. Like, if I said I had a rough day at work, she'd immediately talk about how much harder it is running your own business. If I mentioned being tired, she'd go on about how she's been up since 5 a.m. doing CEO stuff, aka making TikToks about being a CEO. The phone thing got really bad too. She'd ignore my calls, but I could see her active on Instagram, liking and commenting on her friends' posts. When I called her out on it, she'd say stuff like, social media engagement is part of my job, or I'm networking. One time I was looking at our old photos and realized we hadn't taken a picture together in like 2 months. But her Instagram was full of pics with Jake and Mike, at the gym, at coffee shops, working at networking events, always tagged with stuff like #entrepreneurlife, #building an empire, #teamwork. The final straw before everything really went to shit was when she forgot my birthday. Like, completely forgot, no text, no call, nothing. I saw on her stories that she spent the whole day doing some team building exercise, aka going hiking with Jake and Mike. When I brought it up the next day, she was like, OMG babe, I was so busy with work stuff. She tried to make it up by ordering me a cake 3 days later from the bakery that was her first client, that she still wasn't paying full price, by the way, then posted a pic of the cake on her business account with #supporting small business. Didn't even tag me in it. I started dreading checking her social media. It was always some new post about grinding or hustling with these guys while I'm sitting at my actual job that's paying her rent. But hey, at least she looked good in the pics, right? Quick background for this part, we hadn't seen each other for 5 days, no calls, barely any texts, just her posting constant Instagram stories about the grind and whatever. I was getting pretty sick of it, to be honest. So last Saturday, I decided to leave work early, told my boss I had a migraine, LOL, and surprise her at her place. Figured maybe if I showed up, we could actually spend some time together. Looking back now, maybe I should have just gone home and played video games instead. I get to her apartment around 2 p.m. Keep in mind, I'm literally paying for this place, like, the rent check has my name on it. But when I ring the bell, Jake opens the door. Dude's not wearing a shirt, apparently that's how they work now, and gives me this look like I'm some door-to-door salesman interrupting their important business meeting. The apartment's a mess, by the way, empty energy drink cans everywhere, takeout containers, and their gym bags just thrown around. Real professional workspace they got going there. The backdrop and ring light for client calls are still set up, but there's literally gym equipment scattered around it now. I walk in and see my girlfriend sitting at her desk wearing workout clothes at 2 p.m. on a workday. She looks surprised to see me, but not in a good way, more like when you run into someone from high school that you were hoping to never see again. The conversation went something like this. Me, hey, thought maybe we could go get some fresh air. Haven't seen you all week. Her, oh, I'm kind of in the middle of something. I look around, and literally nobody is doing anything. Mike's playing League on his laptop, I could see his screen, and Jake's just scrolling on his phone while doing these weird stretches. Me, looks like you're not too busy. Come on, it's a nice day out. She actually starts to get up, and I'm thinking maybe this won't be so bad. Then Jake has to open his mouth. Jake, leaving already, boss? Has to put in the same hours as the employees, right? Does this weird laugh. At this point, I'm trying really hard not to say anything stupid, like, who is this guy to talk about hours when he's literally just been flexing in the mirror half the day? But then my girlfriend, who I'm paying rent for, goes, maybe I should stick around if you want my company so bad, and they both start laughing like it's the funniest thing ever. Mike's still pretending to be super focused on his game, but I can see him smirking. I'm standing there like an idiot watching my girlfriend basically flirt with this dude right in front of me. So I try one more time. We haven't spent any time together all week. Your work's done for the day. Let's just go get some food or something. That's when she hits me with it. Looks me dead in the eyes and says, maybe you should compete for my attention with my male friends. The way she said it, the look on her face, the fact that Jake and Mike are both trying not to laugh, I don't know, man. Something in me just snapped. I grabbed my jacket and said, you can enjoy their company while I go have some fun after slaving away all week to pay your rent. The room got real quiet after that, like, you could hear Mike stop clicking his mouse quiet. I didn't even look back at her face, just walked out. You want to know the worst part? She didn't follow me. Didn't call out. Nothing. I waited in my car for like 10 minutes thinking maybe she'd come running out to apologize. Nope. Instead, I get a text from her an hour later saying I was rude and disrespectful to her in front of her team, that I shouldn't have mentioned the rent thing because it undermined her authority as CEO. CEO of what? A company that can't even pay its own office space that's literally running out of an apartment I'm paying for? I didn't reply to the text. Didn't reply to any of her messages after that. Just drove home and spent the rest of the day playing Baldur's Gate 3 and trying not to throw up from how angry I was. That's when I started seriously thinking about just walking away from all of it. From her, from the whole situation. Just completely done. The weekend after I walked out of her apartment was probably the longest of my life. I just sat in my room, phone on silent, trying to process what happened. She kept texting me stuff like, you're being childish. We need to talk about your behavior. The team feels uncomfortable now. You're not supporting my dreams. The team? You mean the two guys who sit around her apartment all day doing nothing while I pay the bills? I actually screenshot all her messages because I knew someday I'd need to look back at them to remind myself I wasn't crazy. Here's some more gems. A real boyfriend would understand the pressure I'm under. Jake said what you did was really toxic. You're just jealous of my success. My company is about to take off, and you're trying to hold me back. Success? What success? The company made like $800 last month. That wouldn't even cover half her rent. I spent Sunday going through our bank transfers over the past year. I'd given her $16,800 in rent payments, around $2,000 for emergency bills, $500 for some marketing course she never finished, $300 for a business photo shoot. That's almost $20,000. $20,000 I could have bought a car with. Could have put a down payment on a small condo. But instead, I funded her little playhouse where she gets to pretend she's a CEO while flirting with her employees. Monday morning, I called her landlord. Real nice guy, actually, we talked a few times when I was dropping off rent checks. Conversation went something like this. Me, hey, just wanted to let you know I won't be paying girlfriend's name's rent anymore. Him, oh, everything okay with you too? Me, not really. Just wanted to give you a heads up. Him, thanks for letting me know, and thanks for being reliable with the payments all this time. That was it. Simple. But my hands were shaking after I hung up. It felt real now. Then I did something that probably seems petty but whatever. I made a spreadsheet of everywhere my money had gone in the past year. Rent, bills, all the random business expenses I'd helped with. Added up all the hours I worked to earn that money. Calculated how many times she'd bother to say thank you. Spoiler, not many. The next few days were weird. She was still posting on Instagram like nothing was wrong. Pictures at the gym with the team, motivational quotes about pushing through obstacles, stories about leveling up your business. Meanwhile, I'm sitting at my desk at work wondering if I just threw away a 4-year relationship. Wednesday rolls around, and I get the text I've been waiting for. Why is my landlord here with an eviction notice? Why haven't you paid the rent? I didn't reply. She called, I didn't answer. More texts, you can't do this to me. My business is based here. What am I supposed to tell the team? This is going to ruin everything. Then the threats started. I'm going to tell everyone what a horrible person you are. My lawyer will contact you. She doesn't have a lawyer, LOL. You're legally responsible for my rent. I'm not, never signed anything. I blocked her number, then her Instagram, then her email, then started blocking all the random accounts she made to try to contact me. Her friends started messaging me too, most of them calling me names, saying I'm trying to sabotage her business. One of her college friends actually messaged me to say she understood why I did it, but that just made me feel worse somehow. Jake and Mike both sent me these long messages about how I'm destroying a woman-owned business and showing my true colors. Funny how they're so concerned about the business but not concerned enough to actually get real jobs and stop mooching off her, and by extension, me. The hardest part, a tiny part of me wanted to give in, send the rent money one more time, tell her we can work it out. That's what 4 years of loving someone does to you, makes you consider doing stupid things even when you know better. But I didn't. I just sat there looking at my bank account with the rent money still in it and felt nothing. Just empty. Okay, so this part is actually kind of hard to write about. It's been a few weeks since it happened, and my hands are still shaking typing this. After a week of me ignoring her messages, I thought maybe she'd finally gotten the hint. The eviction process had started, her landlord works fast, I guess, and I figured she'd be too busy dealing with that to bother me. Wrong, it was around 11:30 p.m. on a Thursday, I remember because I was in the middle of a league match, when I heard someone pounding on my door. At first, I thought it was my neighbor, his car got broken into last month, so sometimes he gets paranoid and checks on everyone. But nope, it was her. I have one of those chain locks on my door, thank God, so I open it just a crack to see what she wanted. As soon as she saw me, she just changed, like, her whole face just twisted up with anger. She started screaming about how I ruined everything, how her investors, what investors? Were going to pull out because she's losing her office space, how her team is going to quit, how I destroyed her dreams. I tried to close the door, but she stuck her foot in the gap. Then she actually tried to force her way into my apartment, like physically pushing against the door while I'm holding it shut with a chain on. Some of the stuff she was saying, you think you can just walk away after what you did to me? I'll show everyone what kind of person you really are. You're going to regret this. Then she tried to reach through the gap in the door to grab me. Her nails actually scratched my arm. Still have a mark. That's when I got really scared. I backed away from the door and told her I was calling 911. She kept screaming and banging on the door for another 15 minutes. My neighbors definitely heard everything because I got texts asking if I was okay. Finally, she left, but not before yelling that this wasn't over. I literally sat on my couch all night with a baseball bat next to me. Couldn't sleep. Kept checking my windows to make sure she wasn't trying to get in another way. The next day, I got messages from Jake and Mike saying I made her snap and how I pushed her to this by cutting off her funding. Yeah, because that totally justifies trying to break into someone's apartment and assault them. I installed a Ring camera the next day, got better locks too. My neighbor, a cool old dude who lives alone, said he'd keep an eye out for her car and call the cops if he sees her around. The really messed up part, this is the same girl who used to bring me soup when I was sick, who cried watching dog rescue videos, who I thought I was going to marry someday. Looking at those scratches on my arm, I realized I didn't even know who she was anymore. The girl I fell in love with would never try to physically hurt someone. But I guess that's what happens when you enable someone for so long, they think they're entitled to whatever they want from you. Some other weird stuff started happening too, random calls from unknown numbers, definitely her, fake bad reviews showing up on my work's Google page, her friends posting vague stuff about me on social media, emails from new accounts telling me to watch my back. I saved everything, screenshots, recordings from the Ring camera, pictures of the scratches, all of it. Started carrying pepper spray too. Never thought I'd have to protect myself from someone I used to share my life with. My mom keeps telling me to move back home for a while, but I don't want to leave my job. Plus, running away feels like letting her win somehow. I don't know, maybe that's stupid. The worst part is that tiny voice in the back of my head that wonders if this is somehow my fault. Like, did I push her to this by cutting her off without warning? Should I have given her one more chance? Then I look at the scratches on my arm and remember how it felt being trapped behind that door, and I know I made the right choice. So, Reddit, am I the asshole for not paying her rent and cutting her off? Edit, yes, I filed a police report. No, they haven't done anything yet. Edit 2, my lease is up for 4 months, but I'm looking at other apartments anyway. Stop DMing me saying I should have fought back. I'm not going to hit a woman, even in self-defense. Remember how I said she was following me? Yeah, it got way worse after the apartment incident. She started showing up everywhere, and I mean everywhere, sitting in her car outside my workplace, following me to the grocery store, showing up at the gym I go to, waiting at the coffee shop near my apartment. At first, I thought I was being paranoid, like, maybe it was just coincidence that I kept seeing her. But my friend Kevin, absolute legend, by the way, helped me document everything. We started taking different routes to work, and sure enough, there she was, following the exact same path. We figured out her routine. 7:30 a.m., parks near my apartment. 8:15 a.m., follows me to work. 9 a.m., sits at the cafe across from my office. 5 p.m., follows me home. then just sits in the neighborhood park until late. It was like having this constant shadow. I started going everywhere with friends because I was scared to be alone. Had to explain to my boss why I kept looking over my shoulder during lunch breaks. Then came the confrontation. I decided to face her with Kevin and another friend there for backup. Just walked up to her car and asked what she wanted. Instead of more threats or anger, she just broke down, full on crying, saying how sorry she was, how she messed everything up, how she'd always taken me for granted, said I was the only good man she'd ever known and she couldn't live without me. The old me would have felt bad, maybe even considered giving her another chance. But all I could think about was those scratches on my arm and how scared I felt that night at my door. I told her straight up, "What you're doing is making me feel unsafe. I'm going to report you to the cops if you don't stop." She didn't stop. Getting the restraining order was a whole thing. Had to go to court, show all my evidence, ring camera footage, pictures of the scratches, screenshots of threats, photos of her car following me, witness statements from friends and neighbors, log of every time she showed up places. The court date was crazy. She showed up with Jake and Mike, of course, trying to paint me as this controlling ex who ruined her business. Thankfully, the judge saw through it, especially when they showed the ring footage of her trying to break in. She got arrested that day. Turns out there are consequences for violating personal space and making threats. Someone bailed her out, probably Jake or Mike, but at least now I have legal protection. I'm moving apartments next month. Found a place across town, better security system, underground parking. Told my work about the situation, and they're letting me work remote 3 days a week. The whole thing still feels surreal. Like, how did we go from planning our future together to me having to get legal protection from her? How did my girlfriend of 4 years turn into someone I'm afraid to run into? Her company is basically dead. She got evicted, obviously. Jake and Mike finally got real jobs. Most of our mutual friends chose sides, mostly hers. I'm in therapy now, probably should have done this sooner. The therapist says I have trust issues now. No shit. She also says it'll take time to process everything and that's okay, that I need to forgive myself for not seeing the red flags sooner. I still catch myself checking the ring camera alerts on my phone, still get nervous when I see a car that looks like hers, still have trouble sleeping sometimes. But you know what? I'm doing better. Started going to the gym again, hanging out with friends more, even joined a D&D group. Huge shout out to Kevin for getting me into it. I haven't dated anyone new yet, not ready for that, maybe not for a long time. But I'm okay with that. Yes, the restraining order is still in effect. No, she hasn't violated it yet. Stop asking for her company's social media. I'm not trying to send a hate mob after her. Kevin, if you're reading this, you're the real MVP, bro.